Donald Trump and his DOJ have played many different games with this Epstein case, and we've been reporting on several aspects. Today, they got a setback in court for a very basic ploy that, frankly, hasn't been working on the MAGA crowds or others concerned about getting the Epstein docs, because they went to a judge and said, hey, we want you to help us release some of the transcripts. This is not even the key part of the Epstein docs that matter, and now it's blown up in their face. The judge denying the request to release a small part of Epstein docs, those grand jury transcripts. The judge noting that there are 100,000 plus pages of Epstein files and other materials that dwarf what is basically less than a slice of 1% of all of that, these 70 pages of grand jury transcripts and materials. And then a little truth. The judge reminding the Trump administration that because they have all those documents, and most of them are not grand jury privileged, the DOJ, the Trump administration, are the logical party to simply disclose it. And the grand jury motion itself, the judge notes, is effectively a diversion. I'm joined by Professor Melissa Murray from NYU. Welcome. Your thoughts on what kind of judicial reaction we got here? Because while there was a bit of business to deal with, whether you release those materials, the judge made a point to kind of call out what was a pretty obvious diversion.
No, you're exactly right, Ari. Judge Berman, who was the Southern District judge who heard this motion, really could have answered all of this by using that hot dog suit meme where we're all looking for the guy who did this. Judge Berman appeared to say, yes, people want to know about the Epstein files. There's considerable public interest here, but we have a bedrock principle of not releasing grand jury materials to the public for a lot of different reasons, including maintaining the secrecy of grand jury proceedings, which is a bedrock principle of our legal system. And yes, there are certain circumstances where we might depart from that, but they are extraordinary circumstances, and those circumstances haven't been met here. You are asking government for 70 pages of information that was supplied by a single FBI agent. There's no witness testimony here from any of the victims. And in fact, the things that the public really want to know are contained in that trove of information that the Department of Justice compiled in its investigation of l'affaire Epstein, that it says it can release at any time, but still refuses to do. And so I think Judge Berman got it right here and, gave this government more airtime than it really warranted in saying that I've taken all of these requests seriously, but in fact, you are the ones to actually satisfy the public interest here by releasing the files that you already have.
Yeah, and one reason that these type of tricks work is that people aren't always totally paying attention. So to pick a basic example everyone knows, sometimes somebody is pushed out of a job and they put out a statement saying they want to spend more time with their family. And you think, who's that even going to work on? But it keeps it moving. And a week later, people don't really remember because they're not fixated on that unless it's your thing. Here you have this active MAGA-aligned group of people that are following every detail of this. And so unlike cover stories that are weak but kind of might help, it seems like this is only further aggravating the very people, some of whom have spent literally years clamoring for answers for these documents. They're seeing through the smokescreen. They're upset. Joe Rogan is very influential. Here's what he's saying. This is new.
But the problem is this is a bipartisan issue.
It's bipartisan. It's not. I don't know. I heard as a Democratic hoax. That's
yeah, I don't think that's true.
But
well, it's certainly not a hoax if you go to jail. It's certainly not a hoax if Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail too. So like she's in jail for sex trafficking. She's in jail for sex trafficking. But the question is to who? Who's she in jail? You have to be sex trafficking to somebody in order to go to jail, right?
Yeah.
So who? How's that work?
So that's some of the wider environment. What happens in a case like this, Melissa, where the judges called them out, the DOJ caught between claiming they want to release stuff and now being put on notice in a very public forum? Go ahead. Most of it you could release if you actually cared about the transparency you promised.
Well, I just want to sort of put this in the context of the broader attack on the lower federal courts here. I think one of the plays here was to put this in the hands of a district court judge like Judge Berman. It's been in other hands of other district court judges, the same issue. And they've all said, no, we're not going to depart from the bedrock principle that we don't release grand jury proceedings to the public. And I think that was intended to gin up more ire, more rage against these judges. We've already seen the attacks on the judges from this administration. I think this was intended to do that. I'm not sure that it works here. I think most people will recognize that what Judge Berman is saying is that, yes, you're right, there is public appetite for this, but it is the Department of Justice that could sate that appetite by releasing these files. And as we know, there has already been a request from Congress to release these files, and apparently we are supposed to get, over the course of the next few days, I believe beginning on Friday, Congress is going to be able to release those files, or at least some portion of them. So if there isn't public responsiveness here to the, like, if they don't release those files to the public, I think there will be more questions, but it won't be because of these judges.